Hi there, I'm Alex and welcome to Ukes with Alex. This is the ukulele channel where we explore the wider world of ukulele and ukulele culture, dive in deep, come up for air and have some fun along the way. And what we're going to do over the next few lessons is we're going to run through everything you need to know as a beginner about the ukulele. I have been playing ukulele, teaching ukulele for the last 14-15 years, guitar for even longer. And there are some key things that you need to know that are not necessarily easy to find that will help you and give you that push you need along the way. When all is said and done, you probably have invested half an hour of your time in this course, but you will have the building blocks you need to get past those first difficult stages and you'll be a uker for life. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the anatomy of a ukulele. So this is a ukulele. Okay, if you guessed that one, you know, no prizes just yet. But we need to talk about the bits on the ukulele because there's nothing more annoying than when someone says to you, oh yeah, no, if that's not working properly, you probably just need to have a little look at the saddle. Maybe there's a sharp point or it could be the bridge pin. And your eyes glaze over and you go, I don't know what they're talking about. We've all been there. So I'm going to run through as much of the terminology as I can at the beginning for you now. So this thing here, this is the body. Specifically, the bit you're looking at is the top. This is the bit that resonates when you play the strings. It vibrates and you can't see it vibrate, but that's where the tone and the sound comes from. But another contributing factor is the back and sides. So this is the sides, this is the back, and they can be made of various different woods, and different woods give you a slightly different sound. You have the neck, which is this long thing sticking out of the body. They can be made out of lots of woods, but this one is maple, it might be mahogany or something like that. And then the darker piece of wood you see on the front is called a fingerboard. So if someone says to you, oh, what you want to do is have a look at the neck, what they're probably meaning is the fingerboard, or they want you to find a rough point on the neck. I don't know, but you know the ins and outs of the body. This thing at the top is called a headstock. You get different types of headstocks. You get normal paddle style headstocks like this, which I'm going to show you now. And then you get slotted headstocks like this. A slotted headstock has the tuners sticking through the back, but they are still geared tuners, and the strings go through the nut, which is this thing just here. It's normally a piece of bone or a synthetic material that the strings go through. When somebody says to you a machine head, they're talking about this thing here. So there's machine heads that you turn, they have gears or they are friction based. Talk about that in a sec. And that's how you tune the instrument. Most modern instruments have geared tuners, but some have friction tuners. Friction tuners are just that. They rely on you tightening a screw so that the friction is holding the tuner in place. Geared tuners have typically a cog, something that you would turn and it would hold it more firmly in place. Geared tuners are more popular, but the instrument we're looking at, the ukulele, traditionally had friction pegs, so some people like to continue them. If you're Googling it, trying to find replacement tuners, typically friction tuners are known as friction pegs, and geared machine heads are known as geared machine heads or geared tuners. Something we should talk about is a strap button. Lots of instruments don't have them, but if you're an absolute beginner, I recommend you buy one and have one fitted to your instrument. So I have two on mine, and the most common question I get asked is, why would you only have one? Well, some people like to have the strap go around their neck and then tie a piece of string through here or through the slots if they've got them. And what that does is it balances the instrument at the right angle because the neck is being pulled up by the string. But you can have a second strap button either on the back heel joint, which is the back of the neck, this bit here, or on the underside of the neck, depending on what you prefer. The only downside to that kind of strap is that it does make things go a bit topsy-turvy, but the strap isn't getting in your way. Next up, we'll talk about a bridge. A bridge is the piece of wood at the end of the ukulele where you would typically have the strings go in and connect with the top. There are several different types of bridge and they all work slightly differently and they all interact slightly differently with the top. This is a pin bridge. This means that there are bridge pins that you can pull out and push down to clamp the string in place. These are becoming more and more common, but they are something borrowed from the guitar world, not a traditional ukulele thing. You have a string through bridge. That's where you have 4 holes here where you push the string through, and the way you would fasten that string is by tying a knot How would you get to it? Well, you would fish the string out of the sound hole, tie the knot, and then pull it tight. And then you have a tie-on bridge, which is borrowed from classical guitar. Tie-on bridges, you do a very fancy looking kind of tie around, and then you would pull them tight to keep them in place. They all do the same job, and that job is housing the bridge saddle, which is this white piece, but it could be a different colour. This is typically bone, and what this does is it creates the end point of the scale length. We'll talk about that in a sec. And these bridges are often not flat. They have something called compensation, which means they sit at slightly different levels depending on where you're looking. This is a good example of a compensated bridge. I'll do some close-ups for you. And you'll see that this distance is really important for intonation. Let's talk about scale length and intonation. This is a tenor ukulele. A tenor ukulele has typically a 17-inch scale length. That distance is measured from here to here. A concert, which is slightly smaller, about 10% smaller, would have a 15-inch scale length. And a soprano can range from 13.5 to 14.5 inches scale length. Sopranos are much more kind of subject to change. I would just ask the person you're buying a soprano from what the scale length is if it's something important to you. All of these ukuleles that we've mentioned are subject to poor intonation. Ukulele and intonation are two words that go hand in hand. That is when you play a chord or you play some notes and the note is out of tune, even if you play it absolutely perfectly and the instrument measures as in tune. The way that you correct intonation, usually on a ukulele, involves lowering the nut height so that the string is going through at a better angle, so that the scale length is kind of made exactly accurate with the length of the frets. Or you would carve compensation into the saddle, this bit down here. But if you're unsure and all of these words scare you, the best thing you can do is take it to a qualified and well-respected local music shop. Guitar shops often are fine to work on ukuleles, and I work in a UK-based ukulele shop that's set up ukes all day called the Southern Ukulele Store. It's worth getting in touch with us if that's something that you need a look at. Let's talk about strings. Ukulele strings can be made of 3 different types of material. You'll hear everybody talk about fluorocarbon, which is basically fishing line, but a refined fishing line. It's got very little stretch to it. It's usually a clear material or a dark brown black material. And people like that string because where it doesn't stretch very much, it tends to be quite crisp sounding and bright. The next material you hear come up quite a lot is Nile gut. That's a plastic string made to simulate a gut string, which is what these instruments traditionally came with. Nile gut has quite a warm, slightly darker sound to it than fluorocarbon. It's also a tiny bit more stretchy. And then finally you have 2 different types of nylon, clear nylon and black nylon. I use clear nylon on my ukuleles. I'll leave a link in the description for the strings that I use. Clear nylon has some stretch to it, which creates a slightly softer, mellower sound. And black nylon is typically a bit fatter, a bit thicker and a bit mellower. So you've got a very wide range of different strings you could use made of those materials. And it will be one of those materials that you'll have on your ukulele at the time of purchase.